This is a short video about installing a lithium battery into an old battery case. And my vehicle is an old BMW motorbike. I want to keep it looking correct. And so I'm using the existing battery case, which is appropriate to the bike, and opening it up and putting a lithium battery inside. It's a 6-volt lithium battery, which gives much better performance than the old one. In addition, I found a poor connection in the process of doing that, and that had reduced my voltage at the coil by a good volt and resulted in poor starting. So I'm quite excited that the whole process is giving me a better starting bike. So this is an emptied and rinsed lead acid battery, which I'm going to cut off here, and hopefully manage to put this nice little lithium one in where 2 cells were, leaving another cell to hold the fuse and possibly a few tools or so. And that's what I did in the R60. If there's room, I'll do it again for the R51. Well, that cut through nicely with a Stanley knife and plenty of water and gloves and eye protection around, ready to take the top off. And that's just about it. This one was very near the end of its life, not really giving what it was supposed to do, and only delivering about 4 volts with the ignition on, whereas that little lithium ion is right up at 6.5 with the ignition and the lights on. It'll do nicely for starting. And there it is with its gel mats. And the 6-volt battery will fit into 2 cell spaces, just cut out a division, and that will nicely leave 1 cell space for fuse and other bits and pieces. And I'll put this top back on, having wired up the 6-volt lithium ion battery to those terminals. And the very sharp chisel was good for taking out that division. It wasn't tremendously easy, but out it came. So here it is all finished. It's a good bit lighter than the original. And there it is with the fuse on the extra compartment and soldered joints onto the lead. I think that'll do quite nicely. So the lithium battery is installed nicely in that case. This bike's never started particularly well, and I think I've discovered one of the key reasons for it, and that is that the power, when it comes out of the battery, goes through this little connection here, which split into 61 and 51, 51 going straight up to the headlamp. And if I put the ignition on, I've been using this battery a fair bit, so there's a fair bit more voltage drop. And if I look up at the headlamp, that voltage is now sitting just a little bit below what it was, just a small amount of voltage drop. But before I tightened that little screw up for the 51 lead up to the headlamp, this reading was down at 5.1, 5.2, and that would not have helped the starting, because that was all that was getting to the coil, just because of a bad connection. So here's the finished product with an isolator switch added, because I've got an electronic regulator which draws current even when everything's off. I think a good idea is to measure the voltage with the ignition on at the coil and see if you've got voltage lost through the system somewhere. I was getting as low as 3.9 volts, which was due partly to the battery not being really up to it, but it was largely due to this little connector not letting enough current through, so I've replaced that with a soldered splice. And now I'm getting 6.1 volts with the points closed, 6.5 volts as I had before with the points open, and I'm hoping to have much better starting.